Got a beer too?
Welcome to Decades, hosted by Chris Rubio. Decades is a show made up of 5 generations of people brought together to discuss topics you wouldn't normally talk about with others. The goal of the show is to learn by having some good, possibly heated discussions, without losing the simple fact that it's okay to talk to different people with different opinions other than your own.
Welcome everybody to this episode 4 of Decades Live, the mission. I am your host, Sub 60 Ed. Today, Rubio cannot be with us. We're going to be joined by Nick, Alex, Jim, and God knows who else is going to be with us. So it's going to be a fun time. Thank you for this joining us on this Wednesday evening, and let's kick it right out of it.
You need to change your description there. It says the producer.
Oh, I do. Actually, I should. Yeah, I should say
slash host or something.
I should say the slash best host, right? The best.
Yes.
The host is the host with the most. The host with the most.
We're Rubio-less people. We're Rubio-less.
Yes, Rubio-less tonight. I'm sure we'll survive. I know.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the dropping of a civilization or the ending of a show. But we have the great Nick Umble with us, and that's what's going to take it. You know, the Sentinel strength that just brings. That's just going to be a great thing.
I actually logged on last night thinking it was last night, and then I got on and was here like 10 minutes and was like, I'm retarded.
Well, that's all right. You know what? You just don't listen to the messages that we put. And I guarantee you people are going to forget next week that it'll be back to Tuesday. Anyway.
We don't use that word anymore, Nick. You can't use it.
Is that a bad
word?
No,
it's mentally challenged. Anyway.
that would be like calling Ed a name for a little person.
That's all right.
Rubio does.
Ask Rubio. Rubio does it all the time. He calls me everything put PC in the book. So what should we expect? Anyway. All right. We're going to start with the 4 of us tonight, and we'll see who joins us. Our first topic is something that Jim and Alex and I were just talking about, Nick, before you jumped on and before we went live. Why are men taking their own lives at such a high rate? And Jim was actually, was a topic we were going to cover last week, but we're covering this week. And it just so happens that Jim was sharing a story with us. And Jim, if you'd like to kind of share again what you were sharing with us before we went live, no names will be, and just we can all just take it from there. And remember, we are live. Please be free to join in, chat, join in the conversation. We'll love that also. Jim, go ahead.
What are you watching? Yeah,
we got a couple.
So the other night, my best friend, he was the best man at my wedding, texts me, and he's like, we were talking about the golf rounds we had just played, and comparing scores. Of course, his is always a good 8 to 10 strokes better than mine. But so anyway, and he asked me to give him a call, like in his next response to the text, which would be out of character for him. So much so that I think we were still on the phone when he did that, or not on the phone yet. But anyway, I didn't realize that. And he wanted to talk about something that's going on in his life. And he works for a gentleman who has a 30-year-old son. And the 30-year-old son is struggling. I mean, he's struggling big time, depression. He's got a number of kids and, a marriage that's very stressful. And, he was going to do it. He was going to do it. And his 5-year-old daughter came into the garage and was like, Daddy, what are you doing? Now, I was telling these guys before we came on live, because we didn't even know if we were going to have an episode. Me, Alex, and Ed are hanging out. So, Nick, I really appreciate you being here.
Whoa. So wait, so Alex and I aren't good enough?
Well, you were going to cancel.
Right, but then I said, how about the 3 of us do something? And then Nick jumps on, which Nick, always appreciate you coming back. But Jim just sitting there saying, so glad that Nick came on. It's like, oh, okay. The great Nick Umble is joining us from Harper's Ferry, everybody. Let's hear it for the great Nick Umble. Anyway.
Remember,
go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
I haven't been on the show in a few weeks. and I was really excited about tonight. I thought there would be,
Thank you, Sheldon.
I thought there would be one or two more people, but this is perfect because this is pretty serious and woof. So anyway, so I was telling you guys before we went live with Nick. So Nick, you didn't hear this, but it wasn't like he had a lot of visuals up, but he was going there, and you know, because that was one of my first questions to my buddy was like, well, what did the little girl say? You know, that type of thing. I think he said maybe she more sensed it than saw anything, you know, but yeah, I feel compelled now. I got to be involved in this guy's life in some way. So he's 30, and I'm going to introduce him to F3 if I can. If he even wants to interact, I don't know. We'll see. You know.
Well, that's 30 years old. That's a young dude. That's not even a dude like our age group. And
I think it's probably we need Craig Hannum to weigh in on the statistics because I don't know where the age brackets are. You know?
Yeah, but let's just talk a bit from a perspective of anybody thinking about doing that. We all have struggles. We've all gone through struggles. We all still struggle. I mean, I can only imagine what Nick saw in his active duty days. You know, I can only imagine what we all carry our own baggage of our own burden. So what makes it? Whoa! Stop! All right, roll back. So what happened?
Well, I was going through. Stop. I was an E8 in the Army. I don't know, probably a year into my Team Sergeant time. I had been, at the time, I had probably I'd just come back to Fort Lewis. It had been 2011, 2012 timeframe. I was going through a divorce. It was horrible. And I had been arrested, and that's a whole nother story, but that catered into it. Right. And like, this is going to sound fucked up, but I couldn't find, my whole thought process in my head was like, I'm renting this house. Where do I not do this so the cleanup isn't horrendous for everyone else in the house?
Right? Wow. Oh man.
And so I trailed around the house like, and then I finally ended up back in my bed and then passed out, and I woke up with a pistol next to me in my bed. But that's I mean, there was a round in the chamber. It was ready to go. It was there.
Oh my God. And Nick, how long ago are we talking about?
12 years ago.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Right. I had just come back from Oki, where I spent 28 of 33 months deployed, 2 trips to Iraq. I was going through my second divorce, and it was absolutely horrible. I had been arrested probably 2 months prior. I didn't know how that was going to come out or how that was going to play itself out. And it was just like, it just kept compounding and compounding, right? And then my first wife, I have a daughter with her, and that whole thing is another, that was a compounding piece of it too, man. It just one of those things, man. Your life just snowballs, and you don't realize it, and you don't catch it. And now that I look forward, now that I'm almost 46, I sit and I look, and I don't, there's a huge. I think the reason that younger kids, I don't understand why anybody does it, right? But I've been there. I've been in that situation, so I understand what brings you to that point, right?
Can we stop? Let's stop you there. What brought you to that point? Because I think we have to understand what brings a person to the point.
Oh, okay. So my parents.
Is it like deep dark thoughts? Or
my parents have been married for 50 years, right? My parents have been married for 50 years, and they're that's how I grew up. I grew up in Iowa. My parents are still married, and that's a rarity today, right? That's a huge rarity. So then I'm on my second marriage. I'm about to get divorced for the second time. I have a daughter that, well, if her mom had it her way, I'd never see her. That's just a total fight. It was always in kind of fight to see her. And it was like, we live in the same state. Like, I don't understand this. And I had been arrested. I didn't know if I was about to lose a career that I had, 16 years invested in. I had a team that depended on me. I had, relative probably issues that I had dealt and seen over the time that I spent overseas. And it was just one of those things, like life just snowballs, and you just get to a point where you're like, well, fuck it, man. Like, some people are like, oh, it's the easy way out. And it's not. It's just that you're so overcome by events that you're just like, you don't feel like there's any way out. Like there's
I've never, thank God, I've never, experienced those kinds of thoughts. But from what I'm hearing, going through what I've heard other people go through, it feels like just this immense weight, pressure. It's so heavy that you can't bear it. Is that what you were?
I've said this before, right? Like, I would not trade one day, good or bad, of the 20 years and 20 days I spent in the United States Army. Right. I wouldn't trade one day of the 14 years I spent as a special forces team guy. Right? I wouldn't trade any of that for the world. But that shit is the most toxic fucking environment you can be in. It is the most uber competitive environment.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Everything is competitive. We will turn anything into a competition, and I mean anything. It is how fast.
Well, it kind of makes sense though when you think about it.
It is. The lifestyle has to be like that. Right. I equate that, like, I understand guys in their 40s, 50s, and 60s and the issues that they're struggling. You have economy, you have other things that are going on, providing for your family. What I see in a huge part that I don't understand is kids in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And my thought, I only have one thought process on this. We as a society have beat down men for so long, and social media has been around about 20 years. And we beat men down on social media. You're toxic masculinity. You're not good enough. You must make this kind of money. Then they interview these chicks on the street, and it doesn't matter who they are, any of them. Oh, my guy has to make a 6-figure salary. My dude has to provide X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And then you start turning into this. You can only tell men that they're these horrible human beings for so long before dudes just end up like, well, why do I fucking care?
But I don't think females are left alone either. I mean, I think that's across the board, both sexes.
Well, men actually have I mean, I read some statistics before last week's show. Men are like 4 times as much as far as committing suicide than women. I mean, which means pressure probably at least 4 times or more as much as pressure of women. I'm not saying women don't have pressures, but you know.
And I think we're also seeing too. I mean, we're also seeing I saw a statistic, or read something a couple weeks back where the 10-year-old who'd been bullied, a 10-year-old had been bullied online, took his own life. A 10-year-old.
Yeah.
No kid. I mean, at 10 years old, I was worried about what cartoon I was watching on a Saturday afternoon, and what I was going to eat for cereal. I mean, that's. I mean, we don't even help each other. I mean,
you
men
can get away from it. When we were all kids, everyone sitting in here right now, when we were kids, if you got bullied in school at 3:30, your life changed, and you were surrounded by people that loved you, that wanted to be around you, that gave you that sense of, and you had a safe. Hate to use that word, but you had a safe space to go to for the next 16 hours and decompress. When kids come home now, they jump on social media, man.
Right, and it's not safe. Right.
Correct. 100%.
Nick,
it's not safe.
You're completely wrong. They don't wait till they get home. They do it on the way to school. They
Jim, you're right.
They go home. They come back the next day and giggle about how they were up till 3, 4 in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, this is awful.
I mean, then we get into that's a whole nother topic. We could
including my son, and I find myself on there too much too.
But let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back. And I want to hear from Nick. Let's talk about, since you shared what stopped you when we come back. Then we're going to roll into
Then we're going to roll into favorite childhood moment, because I thought that was a good segue.
Yeah, favorite child. Yes, and then we'll roll into something a little less crazy. All right, we'll be right back
This tip is on a DuckDuckGo chatbot that won't be trained on your data. DuckDuckGo wants to demonstrate that it's possible to host privacy-protecting AI chatbots. The company pulled this off by reaching deals with chatbot providers such as OpenAI and Anthropic to forbid them from training their AI models using the queries from DuckDuckGo users. To create another layer of protection, DuckDuckGo will also submit its own IP address rather than user's IP address with each chat inquiry made. In addition, DuckDuckGo does not save or store any chats, the company said. To respond with answers and ensure all systems are working the underlying model, providers may store chats temporarily. But there is no way for them to tie back to you personally, since all metadata is removed. This tech tip for a great show called Decades is brought to you by Alex on Tech.
Thank you, Alex on Tech, and welcome back, everybody, to this Decades Live, episode 4, The Mission. On this Wednesday evening, Nick, Jim, Alex joining you. A little short staff, no pun intended, but we'll get through it anyway. No, we were talking with Nick. We were talking about suicide rates with men. Nick shared with us that he was in that mindset at one point, and for some reason, Nick made the choice to not do it, not pull the trigger as it would have been. What did it for you, Nick? What?
I don't know.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I just woke up the next morning and I put my gun back in my nightstand and went to work. And I didn't say anything about it. I never told anybody this. The first person I told this story to was 2 years ago on the Rubio Method on his very first show. I was his first guest on his first show. And that's the first time I talked about it.
Oh, wow.
My wife knows, right? My wife knows all that. But I had never talked about it publicly until that episode I did. So it had been 10 years and I'd never openly talked about it publicly.
Wow. But that's great, because I hope that if anybody's watching or watching through somebody, that helps. That's why we're here, is to help.
Absolutely.
That you're sharing, Jim sharing about his friend, is that we're all here about how it gets better.
Like it might look like it is the end of the world, but it gets better. Like that's like, I equate that to being like a drug dealer that's strung out, has no money, and wakes up in a box in the middle of some city he's never been to before, and he's at rock bottom. There's no place to go but up.
Oh yeah, that's true. All right.
Nick,
well, that
can
was
I ask you? Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Jim. Go ahead, Jim.
I'm so grateful, Nick, that you're willing to share. I mean, this is really powerful.
Jim, pistol in my mouth.
Oh,
ready
man.
to pull the trigger, my friend.
Oh, wow. I don't think you shared that a few minutes earlier. I didn't realize. I thought you had it in hand.
Oh, no.
So, Nick, you had it in your hand. You cased the metal.
Wow.
Divine intervention. That's the only
it has to be.
thing I could. It's it. I cannot give you a reason. I don't know.
An angel come and save you.
Your guardian angel came down and pulled it from your mouth and said, we have bigger plans.
No,
I mean, wow. That is.
So, is there any difference in? I mean, Nick. You've got to be a different person now. You're a different person. What's different?
Oh, I mean, you just have to take it, man. Went to work the next day and just never thought of it again.
Yeah.
Are
you a proponent of therapy? I mean, were you diagnosed with any kind of mental illness, or
I never. So I went to. About the only time I really went to therapy was after my last rotation in Afghanistan. It was pretty rough. When I mean rough, it wasn't rough for me personally. It was just all the stuff going on around me. Like, they were 12 to 18-hour days, and I worked in an ops center. So every time someone got into a firefight or every time someone got killed, like, we were making notifications. And I made it a point that if someone gets hurt or someone gets killed, I'm the only guy going to knock on the command team's door. And guys were like, why? And I'm like, well, I don't need any of you associated with, right? Everyone knows when you see my face at 3:00 in the morning, what's happened. right?
Right,
It's in the
right,
clip.
right. Yeah. Well, that's. Yeah,
I don't need
that's
anyone else here associated. That face doesn't need to be associated anywhere else. And I had that relationship with my command. And I didn't leave 150 foot radius for 6 months. We used to make fun of it. It was my 150 foot box. I went from my office to a chow hall to a bathroom to my room to the gym, and it was all in a 150 foot circle.
Wow.
And I didn't want to leave my house when I got back from that rotation. That was probably the worst rotation. I just got home and I'm like, I don't want to go outside. I don't want to leave my house. Like, I'm fine here. And I went to therapy one time, and I went to see a psychic at our special forces group. And he's like, you'll be fine. Just go outside. Don't worry about it. Okay, dude.
That's not therapy. That's not therapy.
All right. That's military therapy. Though.
That's military therapy.
It is. So I never went back. Okay. Never. Right. So I made my therapy like going to the gym,
right,
and doing other stuff, man. I just found things to keep me busy. And so that's how I did it.
Well, here, actually, continuing with that, and I was going to ask this, but Rubio beat me to it, so I'll give him credit just because he's not here, but he's at least participating. So, exactly, Nick, to the guys, gals, people out there, let's not pigeonhole ourselves.
To my buddies.
Yeah. So what advice would you give people that if they were thinking to end it? How much better is your life now? You know, people.
Oh, tenfold.
So, like, what is your advice to the guy who's sitting there with pistol in mouth tonight, tomorrow morning, next morning? What would you say to him?
Sleep on it. Don't do it now.
Sleep on it.
Yeah.
Get up tomorrow morning. It will be better.
Right.
Get up the next morning. It will be better. You put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One step at a time. Right.
That's never going to go away. The fact that you almost did that's never going away.
Right.
However, things get better. Right? It's not always. I don't know, man. I said this to Rubio in his first podcast. Like, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's just all there is to it. And I feel like I can say that and have a leg up on people in the sense of I spent 20 years in the military where a lot of that shit was very uncomfortable, right? Mm-hmm. And you just had to get used to it. But just sleep on it, man. Like,
so does for you, does talking about it help?
I don't know. At first I was super embarrassed. Like, it was like I didn't want to tell anybody I did that shit for multiple reasons. Like, well, there's security clearances, there's this, there's that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want, nobody needs to know any of this. Mm-hmm. And so, but I'm not saying that therapy is not the answer.
Right.
What I have found is that, and I know we're going to talk about it later, that and hey, man, I know a lot of people in today's world do not want to talk about religion at all. But
Nick, you froze when you said.
Repeat what you just said.
Did you hear him?
No, repeat one more. Repeat that last sentence, Nick. What you said.
Meditation is there.
Yes. Yeah.
And
yes.
And the way is a way to help. It can. And a lot of people don't want to talk about religion in these days. But believing in something, whatever it may be, will help you as well.
Yeah. Faith, not religion.
Just correct. Faith.
Yeah. Faith. Well, Ed, what did I put up on the Slack thread? I posed.
That's what it came from. Global.
I was like,
that's what prompted me. You asked the question, and that's what prompted me to take it for tonight's topic. But let me just before let's put a bow on this, as I like to say. So, Nick, and we'll finish up with Nick. So, how is your life better? Like, the steps you said, what was that, 12 years ago or whatever years ago it was? So you've taken 12.
Were you a drinker?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, dude. I drank all the time. I smoked a half a pack or more of cigarettes a day, but I haven't drank. And I still used to drink a little bit, but I haven't had. Oh man, I haven't had an ounce of booze in probably almost 3 years. That's not big.
That's big.
That's not by me not wanting to drink. It's just I don't have an urge to ever drink. I haven't smoked. I had throat surgery like probably 10 years ago now, and I haven't
Mm.
smoked since. I haven't smoked in over 10 years. I haven't drank in over 3 years, and I don't know, man.
So
My life
you're
is
so
different.
so it's good. So for everybody out there struggling with this kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
taking care
one
of your
small-
body
yeah.
is going to take care of your mind, definitely.
taking care of your body.
Watch
plus,
Chef and the MD. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
I could say this: if you find yourself getting angry and being toxic in social media, just dump it, man. I dumped social
Yes.
media for 4 years.
I
all of
heard you say that on another show. I remember that. Yeah.
I had no social media for 4 years,
Right.
and now I can look at X and I just laugh at it. It doesn't make me mad. I don't get upset about it.
right.
I make stuff, make comments, whatever. But dumping social media for 4 years was probably one of the best things I ever did.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Well, that's
I don't
great.
even know how to use X, let alone.
Well, I know Rubio's your biggest fan on X.
I spend a
Yeah.
lot of
Always
time
fun.
on X now.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
actually, that was great stuff, Nick. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for getting a Jim. We wouldn't be right here 20 minutes deep into this if you weren't willing to share prior to us going live. Thank you. And
I had
know
to, you know. I
Right,
mean,
no.
geez.
but that's what we're about. That's
This
what
is-
the mission's
yeah.
about, is
Yeah.
kind of
I'll
getting
talk to
that
him.
message out.
If you want him to if you change I'll give you my number after this. Just on
Yeah.
Slack.
Yeah, well,
I'll
so
talk to
what
that
I
guy.
did was I sent my good friend the 2 social. And here we are talking about getting off social media, you know, and I'm sending them links for the show because I said share them with you know the dad and the son, and you know maybe one of them watches, maybe both of them watch, and then Ed, I was like, we could have him on. He's 30.
Yeah.
30-year-old.
Oh, dude.
You know?
Tell him, yes.
I got an F3 guy in the wings too. I got to ask him though. Beaver.
Well, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can, because as you can see, we're doing it weekly now. We got everybody. So as long as you guys can,
I want to ask
Continue making-
Alex. Alex,
Yeah.
what was your favorite childhood moment? Because I want to talk about that. You go with that, Ed?
I guess so, Jim. You would take over the show. We'll call you the here. Well, we're going to change. Jim
this week.
to
Just
we're going to change Jim to the. No, that's
Producer?
excellent. Well, let's go into that. We need to have a little bit more levity, kind of lighten it up a little
break.
bit.
Do we
That
have
was
to
heavy.
take a break, or are we good? We don't
No,
have to
let's
take a
let's
break,
go ahead.
Yeah. Let's
No,
go.
we're not getting paid. Nobody's paying us anything. Go ahead,
Okay,
Alex. What is
okay,
your favorite childhood?
Well, my favorite childhood memory, I think same one as I shared last week. Basically, my dad, all his previous life, you know, in Soviet Union / Ukraine, he was working for a big government of tire manufacturer in the city where I'm from, and that place had like a vacation spot on a river, about like an hour drive in time from the city where I'm from. And then I think every summer we would spend time in that place like for a couple of weeks. You know, it was nice place. You know, I mean, well, it was nice by Soviet Union standards, not nice
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
Western standards. You know, I mean, but it's still better than sitting, you know, in an apartment, you know, looking out the window and seeing asphalt and you know, there's nothing else to do. So it was actually, we did spend like again there, I mean, time there like every hour, I mean, every year. So I would go either with both of my parents or with some of my parents, depending on, you know, on the business of my parents. And, you know, we would fish, we would hang out with, you know, friends and basically play sports and, you know, swim in the river and basically ride.
It
little-
kind of, you know, what comes to mind, Alex? Have you ever seen The Sandlot? You ever watched The Sandlot, the movie?
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
I'm not
You know, when they
sure.
get-
Uh-huh.
When they go to the pool, they go to like the community pool in town. Nick, you had to have seen that movie.
I've seen
I mean,
it. I've
Yeah, Sandlot.
probably seen it 20 times.
was it
Yeah.
anything like that, Alex?
Well, it was actually, yeah, it was similar. You know,
Pretty
we kind of knew everybody there because everybody was either working at the tire manufacturer or it was somehow connected to it. You know, so we kind
So
of
it
knew.
brought the whole community together.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. I
awesome.
mean, yeah,
That's
because I was living in the heart of the city where everybody either worked at the tire plant or was somehow connected to it, so we kind of knew each other. I mean, more or less, and I knew, you know, guys and girls from my own age, you know, when I was a teenager or even earlier than that, you know,
Right.
I mean, it was always fun times, to get out of the city and spend time, kind of surrounded by trees and, etc. So, because, again, back in Soviet Union days, people didn't really have much choices as far as traveling abroad.
Right.
It was like highly regulated, So
Yeah. Like you're not
yes.
allowed to do it.
yeah, exactly. You had to be connected to some hubs in a government and whatnot, and had to be a model citizen to be able to go anywhere outside of the country. Especially going to like Western world like UK or France, etc. So basically, people were trying to find spots, wherever they could, to have some, relaxing time and spend time.
What age were you? Like, when did you
Well-
first go? 10, 12?
Well, I think I was like probably 4 or 5 when the first time my parents took me there, and we went there every year until about probably my, I would say, high school time, or even in college. Like every year we would go to the same place because that was the only place that was available and cheap and kind of fun place to go, basically. And you didn't have to spend like hours and hours or days and days on a train, going to like some place like
Right.
in
Sounds like
Crimea.
fun.
Yeah, it was fun. That was my.
What was the Nick? What was the lifeguard's name? Wendy Peppercorn or whatever her name was.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Something like that.
That's Alex. You got to watch the movie. You got to watch it. The Sandlot.
Yeah, okay.
It's hilarious.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
It was
know what I'm
probably like
talking about when they're at the community pool.
Yeah.
And one of them pulls a little stunt.
Yeah, that movie probably was made before my time in the States. But one of my favorite movies is Godfather, which was made when I was a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number
So
1, 2, or 3? Which one?
I think I like the first one the most.
Yeah.
Out of the 3. The second was okay. Third one was kind of, kind of meh.
Right.
If you ask me, So, but
What
again,
would Rubio say, Ed? He would say, "Oh, Alex, you're getting all excited. I can't."
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And
Yeah.
he'd say, "Gru, you're talking too fast. I can't understand a word you're saying. Come on, you got to slow down." He's talking about the movies, or he's talking about Charlie Sheen, or what was the other thing? No, let's not. If Rubio's
What about
not
you,
here,
Nick?
we don't. Rubio's not here. We're not talking about him. Rubio is off limits.
What about your favorite childhood memory? I took over as host, Ed. Sorry.
I know that. Notice I give you the
Remember we were
title.
talking-
You're
We
good.
were talking about this last week. I was thinking family vacations, but then Father's Day just happened.
Yeah.
And my dad posted a picture of my grandfather who passed away about 8 years ago,
Mm.
maybe 10 years ago now. And it was my favorite childhood memory. We're going to my grandparents' house.
Yeah.
I lived on a farm, and when my dad was a hog farmer, but my grandfather, he took corn and beans, and he had cows and pigs. And so going to his, he had tractors. My dad didn't have any of that stuff. He had all kinds of farm equipment, and I was just infatuated with that stuff. So riding in a tractor with my grandfather from as a child was probably my favorite memories. Just being in his presence. He's just one of those guys.
Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna have to say that. I was gonna say the same thing. I grew up down here in the Virginia suburbs. Basically, my dad moved down here when we were 4, but they're all I have all my relatives in the Philly area, the whole surrounding area, and we were the only ones who moved away. So when you move away, you go back up for all the high holidays and special events. And my mom's the oldest of 8, so my aunts and uncles are more like kind of older brothers and sisters. I think I've shared that before, but it was always great going up for the holidays because you got to see everybody. And even living in the suburbs of Philadelphia are not like the suburbs of Northern Virginia, or like the Northern Virginia suburbs. They're different. Like in the suburbs of Philly, you could still walk the places, and that's what I thought was the coolest thing. My grandparents, where my mom grew up, there was a Wawa, like literally across the street and like around the corner. Or my dad's grew up in the Northeast, and right down at the end of he lived in a row home up in the Northeast, and right down at the end of where the row home was, you walk down the back alley where you came in the park. was like a butcher deli type shop that you could go in and get meats
Yeah.
and cheeses and all that
All
kind of stuff.
mom and pop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was definitely, and it was. I was just always fascinated because we had nothing like that. We had anywhere you went, you had to drive.
Right.
You know, it was like crazy shit like that. So that was always my fun, going up to visit the relatives up in Philly and the vacations. Like,
What about
used to-
Brigantine? Come on, man.
no, that was, but I used that as that was my summer vacation one that we used last time. That's kind of what I was before Nick stole my thunder.
So many. I
Before
mean, I feel like we all grew up in generations where you just made so many memories. I think that's
Yes.
part of the problem, Nick. It kind of goes
Right,
back
yeah.
to what you were talking about with,
Right.
you know, this is all I see all day long.
Yeah.
No, right. No,
Yeah.
no, that's a good point. I mean, 'cause
Like I said, even my son, I'm like, why don't you go experience reality?
right.
You need virtual reality. I don't even understand that. Like, that's an oxymoron, right? Isn't that what that means when it's
I mean,
contradictory like that? I don't know.
yeah.
Don't
But they
get me
were saying,
started.
it's kind of funny that you say that, Jim, because they've done a lot of things against like Gen X versus the millennials versus
Mhm.
Gen Z, like on the social medias, and how we were the last of the feral type.
Right.
We were all let outside and never let back in until the street lights came on. We drank from the fire hose.
Yeah. Nick,
You
they
know,
don't look up. Nobody looks up. The kids don't look up. I'm like,
Correct.
there's a lot of stuff
Right.
going on up there.
Right.
'Cause if you're like
Well,
this all the
You're
time,
gonna walk into a pole.
you're not going to look up. Oh my God, they're on those bikes, those e-bikes, whipping around on this. Scary.
Isn't a
stuff.
Z-bike
Yeah.
just a moped? Go ahead, Alan.
They're faster.
Yeah.
Are they?
Quieter. Faster
Just-
and quieter.
Just a funny memory from my childhood / teenage years. Well, back in the day, we basically had 2 TV channels. Okay, only 2. One was from Moscow, like a central channel from Moscow, and second one was from Kiev in Ukrainian language. Okay, and they were kind of the same, mostly like government propaganda, some sports. Whenever there's like a World Cup, they would show some games, like or some, or let's say NHL teams would come to play, and then that's how I knew all the American and Canadian city names because of the NHL teams, coming to in Moscow or etc. Okay, and that's why we went, we were out, for so long, like you drive your bicycle with your friends, and parents, since all the crime was kind of there, but it was not actually widely reported, so nobody knew that the crime was actually around. So parents would let us, roam around on bicycles, go anywhere, okay, and then we had fun because it was nothing else to do at home, no video games, no
Yeah.
TV,
Yeah.
Amen. Amen to that.
Yeah, so I mean, it was
Alex,
quite,
you got all excited again. Who did you say was around? You didn't know they were around? You were outside playing?
He was talking about crime. Like crime was there.
Crime.
wasn't it?
Yeah, crime was there.
Crime.
Yeah, crime.
Yeah.
crime.
We need to run translations down there for you.
No, I was
You
following
like-
it.
Yeah.
Just missed crime. That's all I missed. is crime.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, basically during the Soviet years, crime was pretty much not really reported. Okay, I mean, it was like kind of hush-hush. Socialism is the best. We don't have crime. Comparing to the States, and
on the one channel, one of the 2 channels, when you turned it on, they weren't talking about the crime that happened. No.
you would show let's say a small crime, somebody stole some little thing
Right.
from here, but not like oh, somebody killed somebody or somebody raped
Oh,
somebody.
yeah.
That stuff was it didn't happen.
Right.
So, I mean, that's why, one reason why, parents probably would let us go anywhere, on our bicycles, just roam around, play.
Yeah, well, we grew up like that, I
Yeah.
think. Right?
Exactly.
Nick?
Exactly.
I mean,
It was not like,
we do have a show tonight where we're pretty much all like right near the
Exactly.
same age, but that's
It's not
okay.
Right.
It's okay.
it's not like,
No, it's
Yeah.
about guys sharing stories.
Right.
Exactly.
So for
How many-
me,
Well, hold on. Let's do this. Let's take a break and then
Sure.
come back, and then I'd like to touch on the whole meditation thing, the question that you brought up, Jim, to kind of see what we all kind of do, and then we
I
can
wanna
touch
tell
on
my
a couple.
favorite chocolate I do want to tell my favorite childhood memory.
I'm sorry. Didn't you know as the host, you don't get to share.
I'm
You don't get to share, man. There's no share.
And
There's no
Rubio gets mad when you come out. Now I'm front and center here.
All right. Well,
Don't
we'll
put
be
me
back in a
backstage
minute.
either. Don't
We'll be
put me
back. We'll be back.
You cannot count Babe Ruth's pitching stats. Dead ball era stats do not count.
Bart Starr could have played in any era of football. Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers would have been destroyed if he played in the 60s or 70s. Say that to me one more time.
I am saying that with 3 months training, I could face a former 45-year-old plus major league pitcher.
Like Kerry Wood.
Kerry Wood would be a perfect example in this situation. That with 3 months training, 8 hours a day, nothing but practicing hitting, if I am given 100 straight fastballs, I could get one hit.
Welcome back, everybody.
I actually watched that episode.
Did you?
That's the first episode I watched. It's really good. It's very, very good. I was blown away.
Let me welcome everybody back to the episode, Jim. As co-host, I have to educate you on this little bit on the etiquette of welcoming back to the episode, reminding them to please share and like and subscribe to the channel and all that fun stuff. Yes, actually, I think we need to get into the debate of could you hit a fastball. Did we get into that debate last episode? Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. Okay. I thought we did. And I shared the story about getting with okay.
I think I was pounding the comments.
Yeah. You were pounding the comments on that. Yeah. Cause you could, you weren't there yet.
But then, but then I watched Sports Talk with Dad, and they were talking about it there too.
Right.
It's a really good show. If you have not seen
it is, yeah.
It's really good.
Well, they have 100,000 some odd subscribers or something.
There's only one thing that I need them to do a little bit more of, and that's talk about Philadelphia teams rather than Chicago teams. But other than that, it's good.
All right, Jim. So what is your memory? You said you wanted to share your memory.
Well, how do you narrow it down to one? That's hard. There's like mini memories, there's big memories, there's long-term, so I would say for me growing up at the Jersey Shore, and I felt very privileged to live grow up year round at a vacation destination, so for me it was always summertime. I was obsessed with baseball. I mean, baseball was it for me, and wiffle ball in particular, was just such an easy summertime game. You could go out and play. I mean, I did a lot myself. I would just pretend I was the Philadelphia Phillies lineup and who's batting first, and that was back in mid 70s, when they were half decent. And I would be leading off Larry Boa, and I would throw the wiffle ball up in the air. And that was a single. I got a man on first, that kind of stuff. But obviously, it was more fun to play with people that were in the neighborhood. I had 5 older brothers and sisters. I don't want to say coincidentally, because it wasn't a coincidence, but John, my oldest brother, who you obviously know took his own life, he was like my wiffle ball go-to every night, right out front. But anyway, we also had a family that lived 2 doors down, and the grandkids would come visit the grandparents. There you go, back to visiting grandparents. Excellent. And I remember the sister, she was older than the younger brother. She was pretty close in age to me, but she was a real tomboy. She loved to play sports, and she was very good. She was very athletic. Sophia, I think her name was. So we would play a lot, and then we would go into their house, and on the TV in the summertime, right around 8:30, there's always going to be baseball on.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
The Phillies were broadcast.
Yeah.
Then we had, talking to you, Alex, about the channels. We had a few more than 2, but not too many. And there was always two New York channels. Channel 11 was, I think, Picks, and Channel 9. Come on, Nick, I feel like you know all this stuff. What was Channel 9? They used to show the Mets and Picks
so
on 11.
I grew up in Iowa, man.
He grew up in Iowa. Channel 9 was out in New York, wasn't it? Yeah, he was at a farm. He didn't have. He had He probably had rabbit ears with.
That's it. We had rabbit ears. Yeah.
I think they were four. Like it was like ABC, NBC, CBS, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere,
Fox
on.
Boom.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, all of a sudden there's a fourth channel, and people are like, "Whoa, PBS." We had PBS too.
PBS.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we had that as well.
But we had a couple local channels, and there was always a ball game on. I obviously was a homer. I rooted for the Phillies, but then they weren't always as good as the Yankees, and the Yankees were always on. So I kind of became a little bit of a Yankees fan. You know, Reggie Jackson, the 3 home runs in the World Series. Yeah, it was fun. They were a good team.
So Jim, I'm a little disappointed of your. I was expecting a different memory from growing up.
There's so many.
No, but you know what? You know the one I was thinking, Jim, that you were going to say around fall of 1987. It's probably a warm fall afternoon on 54th and City Line Avenue.
I don't know where you're going with this.
This little dude walks into the field house,
the day I met
and you meet
yeah.
me.
Oh, okay.
Amen. I don't equate that as being kids, but we were.
No, I know. I was
just on the verge of adulthood. Yeah.
Oh, we were still kids. I didn't know my A from a hole in the ground at that point in time. I thought I did, but I didn't know my A from a hole.
60, so you could play the part even more. You're like, look, I'm only this big.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. Anyway, anybody?
So meditation.
Oh my meditation. God. So what is your? So Alex. So what is your go-to, Jim? Now that what did you glean from your let me ask your question. State your question so the 20 people that are watching and fans elsewhere remember, like, subscribe, and
pink if we
share.
Had 20 people. I think my sister's watching.
Yeah, she's probably on 4 different computers, so that's 4. Thank you, Gloria. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Love you too. So I go on Slack and I throw out, I'm struggling. This is Slack's our group, behind the scenes where we converse with each other. And oh God.
Oh, really?
It's a bad time. Why did you put that up?
Because it had to be. That's great. You know what? He's just upset because he can't be here. And because I texted him, he texted me, and I texted him, I'll try not to upstage him, and I already have. So anyway, go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
I'm feeling good about working out. I mean, I'm not a workout fiend, but I got that going in the right direction. Going to F3 workouts on Saturdays, mixing other stuff. I'm active. I feel good that way. I go to a therapist, and I know when I'm just the same way you get in a rut where you're not taking care of your body by continuing your working out, getting into a little lull. That can happen with therapy. But I felt like I was missing a little bit of that meditation piece. And I had heard other guys, in our mission group talk about it and things like that. And I know, what is it, the show Veritas? Am I saying it right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Veritas.
Yeah. Right. So I'm like, all right, what do I do first? This is like a night. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start practicing, And I think I threw on my AirPods. I laid on my bed and I started listening to Veritas, and it was great. I mean, it's great storytelling, but it helped me with my meditation. Just that was me, and that's not a shot at that show, because I think I could definitely revisit that show, even from just listening to a story, as much as trying to meditate, or it might take a few cracks at it, So then I switch over to listening to Enya, which was Ed, who was it, either Craig Hannum? Craig Hannum, I think, said, what about music?
Right.
Play some Enya. And I remember listening to Enya, years ago, and it was cool, like to put that back on and listen and just kind of. And what's funny is, as a counselor in a public school, like you could be teaching this type of stuff, but you don't always apply to yourself.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
controlling your breathing,
Yeah.
controlling your mind, controlling your thoughts, directing yourself where you want to be, you know, involving faith if you feel like that's important. So I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm still it's practice like anything else, you
Right.
know. So I got to practice more.
What say you, Nick?
My wife has got me, she's kind of starting to listen to what's that guy's name? Billy Carson, and going down that rabbit hole. And so I started listening to like just different tones, like different hertz. Like you can go to YouTube and listen to like the 936 or the 580. I haven't lately because we've had a house guest for about 30 days. So
Woo.
Oh, is that another story? That's a story for another time?
he's PCSing from Korea. He's my stepson's PCSing from Korea to Hill Air Force Base in Utah. So he came home for about a month. So I haven't really done a whole lot. We've just been kind of hanging out, doing a bunch of other stuff. But when he's not here and it's just me and Jen, I'll spend 20, 30 minutes just kind of listening to that tone, just relaxing and listening to that tone, man.
So I'm confused about the tone because this is all kind of foreign, and excuse my ignorance, but I'm hearing like a straight, just flatline tone, like
no.
almost
It's it's like sometimes I'll listen to like a Tibetan hum or there's music that's set at a certain hertz.
Yeah,
and so
I've heard about that.
So what I'm learning about this is that they're, and I don't know how true this is, but they're trying to say that your body responds to different frequencies. And so Tesla was a huge proponent of using frequencies to heal the body is something that you can do, and that everything is built off of frequencies. So if you use frequencies, you can change the way some things do and heal the body. So sometimes if I'm like, I don't know if it works, but I spend 20, 30 minutes a day just listening to whatever tone. Like if I feel like I'm really beat up from 2 or 3 workouts and my exertion score on my watch says that, hey bro, you need to take a break, I'll take like 30 minutes and just kind of relax and listen to it and see. I'll listen to a body healing one day, or the next day I'll listen to something else, and I just kind of play with it now. But I start to listen to it. You can find them on YouTube. I'll actually send a link to one of them on YouTube so you can, and then once you get it in your algorithm, it'll always be there.
But listen, Nick, you can just get yourself one of the Tibetan instruments and do it yourself.
No,
and then
I'm not musically inclined.
Then you won't have that frequency.
I'm not that musically inclined. It's not.
Yes,
nope.
you are.
Could you see?
It's a bowl. You'd go like.
Could you see? Could you see Nick? Could you see? The only kind of bowl that Nick wants to use is something with food in it.
That's right.
He doesn't want it to. He doesn't want a Tibetan bowl that's empty. Could you see that it would get lost in his massive hand?
Have you guys ever visited? I know the answer to this, but when I was in Nepal, I asked
the question. I asked the question.
In Nepal, and a trip to India in the Jasmine and Kashmir, the J&K area, and I've been to 2 or 3 different Tibetan monasteries, and it is a very there was a time in my life, and if I was not married to my wife, where I might take 4 months and go spend 4 months in a Tibetan monastery.
I heard
just complete peace, like no outside connection.
Alex, what say you, my friend?
Well, I don't really do anything special like as far as meditation. Let's say if I need to clear my mind, I usually listen to the music. I like Jim Morrison, one of all the classic rock bands. I can listen to his music pretty much any day, anytime, and there's always something else that I discover in his poetry and his music. I also live like 15-20 minutes from the ocean, where I can just drive and park my car and just walk around the boardwalk and kind of clear my mind that way. One other ways that I sort of do it, I participate in a self-defense regiment called Krav Maga, which I go and basically they train you how to do a proper self-defense and defend yourself and your family, if somebody's trying to attack you. Okay, so that's kind of the sort of thing that I do, to clear my mind, and that's kind of part of my so-called meditation. Although I don't call it meditation, I just call it, just to clear my mind and get out of the life's situations. Okay, that happen to me daily and stuff. Okay.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what.
I actually hold on. I had this image of Alex walking down the boardwalk on a partly cloudy day, just kind of with the music. You know that scene that you see in all the movies, the guy, the reflective time walking down. I see Alex doing that. He walks through a thing of seagulls and they flutter away and so on. But you know what? I'd
trying
love
to
that
turn
be
it
able to
into a Lifetime original over there. Ed.
Yeah, no. That's a Lifetime original. That's if Rubio was here, he would be. No, I would love that. Would be great. Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry. I just had to share that.
It just made me think, Alex, because I've only been to California like twice, but the Pacific Ocean is so different than the Atlantic Ocean. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And for me, only ever having seen the Atlantic Ocean for all my life and then going out there, I was like, wow, this is,
Well, it's huge, and it's never calm. It's always like wavy, and the water is always cold, even like at summertime, and it's not fun to swim. It's like, it's fun to go to the beach, and kind of hang out, but not like swimming and stuff. It's not fun, okay? Because it's always like not.
Unless you're a surfer, that's about it.
Heard the spec up guys love it.
Yeah. Surfing is great, but you want to kind of go and swim? No, you cannot do it. Unless you're some kind of guy that you want to swim no matter what. But most people just kind of hang out on the beach.
By a great white.
Yeah, that's true. You can do that, but you can do that in the Atlantic too, Jim. You can get eaten by a great white in the Atlantic.
Well, I think
more prevalent out there.
Yeah, I haven't heard too many shark attacks in California. I think they mostly happen like in Florida, from what I know.
Basically, for me, it's listening to music or reading kind of inspirational quotes and working out. And working out is kind of my meditation. It kind of puts my mind in a different plane where actually, if I'm working out, I can kind of clear my mind and kind of bring in the good karma and the Zen and kind of be back to where I need to be. But I love all. I'm going to try. Yeah. Post that if you don't mind, Nick, post that megahertz in a Slack because I'd like to, I've heard a lot about that, but I've never tried it.
Yeah. It'd be nice.
And so, hey, guys, can I ask you something about the working out? Have you considered any F3 working out or no?
No, because I don't. You know what? I haven't checked, and a lot of my no, I have not, Jim. But I need to check to see if there's one close by. I did it when you first said you were going to.
Mm-hmm.
I checked, and I don't remember.
I would love your take on it. I would love your take on it.
I'll
Nick. I mean, I don't know if you.
I also
and it's familiar, but it's been powerful for me. I'm on a little bit of a hiatus because I got a couple little nagging injuries, but I'm going to start going just to hang out with the guys.
Hey, Jim, you got to suck it up a little bit, man.
Nagging injuries. I
know. Look at Nick. I mean, Humble waits till his watch tells him that he's hurt. You got to chill, bro.
My workouts are so different, though. That's the only. There's an F3 in like Kearneysville, which is like 6 miles from the house. But my work, I'm training for PA's Strongest Man right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So my workouts are completely different.
Yeah. I mean, you're lifting like concrete balls and shit like that,
but it'll give you a different balance. It'll give you a different balance.
Well, gentlemen,
no, don't go.
Well, here's the crazy part. We're 40 seconds from an hour-long show. This thing seems to fly by. I want to, and you know what? I want to thank you guys
you didn't
all.
Pull the plug on us there, Ed. You almost pulled the plug on us before.
No, I'm glad because I want to thank. We've had a steady 20 consistent viewers the whole show, And I want to thank each and every one of you 20 viewers out there for sticking with us the whole show. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Chev, Chastity, Rubio, everybody for kind of joining in. And instead of picking, I think you guys all did an excellent job. So you're all
You are too,
show
Ed.
pen.
You are too.
No, actually, yes. All right.
Accepting my
But
third.
actually,
I'll take a
everybody, starting with Alex, one last comment before we go. What is your kind of a takeaway or what you want to share? One last share before we close out this episode.
Well, I think we actually had an important discussion about mental health, which was probably the most important discussion out of 3 that we had, throughout the show. And we learned from each other's experiences, and it's nice to know what kind of experiences people had, and take some lessons from it.
Thank you, Alex. Jimmy, the Nature Boy.
Oh yeah, I thought that was one of the best shows I've been a part of in a while, and I don't know what the common denominator was.
No Rubio.
I mean, huh?
No Rubio. Exactly.
No,
Thank you.
Somebody else
Thank
said
you,
it.
Alex.
Yes,
No,
somebody else said it.
no Rubio. That's exactly what made this
yeah.
show excellent. Thank you.
It was really great to hear what everybody had to say. I think we touched on. So Ed, kudos to you for the topic picks, because I really felt good about these topic picks. And Nick, you blew me away, dude. And I'm so glad you're here. And if you ever need somebody to talk to, you got more than just me. Yeah.
What is your last comment and takeaway?
No, man. I enjoy being on this show. I enjoy, the guys that are a part of this organization, and Rubio really is the guy that I like to think, and he brought me into this, and he taught me how to long snap, and that was my biggest thing. And I think that's what helped me the most, is that when I retired, I had a plan, right? My plan was to go play college football at the age of 38, and I couldn't have done that if it wasn't for Chris Rubio, right? So I have a lot to be thankful for that guy. And
wow. I don't think I knew that. I don't think I knew.
I didn't know that.
You were a long snapper.
So a quick 45-second story. I decided that at one point when the Army decided we're going to make your career for you, I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So I decided to retire. And so when I was a year out, I found a guy that long snapped. He did a first lesson with me, and then maybe a second lesson. And then the guy was like, hey, I'm moving to California. And then Chris Rubio had called me and said, hey, I heard you wanted to get into long snapping, blah, blah, blah. And then I called Chris and said, hey, this dude bailed. And I'm going to remain that guy nameless. And I started working with one of Chris's satellite coaches, Brendan Lopez, in Washington, probably once a week. And then I went up to Lewiston. I drove from the Seattle area. I lived in Tacoma, or Puyallup, right next to Tacoma. I drove to Lewiston twice with, I think Jen went both times. And we went up and I snapped. I took a lesson from Rubio twice. And then I retired I walked away from the Army on leave and stuff in June of 16. And then I played NAIA football for the University of Lindenwood Belleville Lynx during the 16-17 season. So I was 38 years old playing college football with 18 to 22 year olds.
Wow.
God bless you, man. You're badass.
Wow. Nice.
That is awesome.
Yep.
The message there to everybody.
Show on that. We could do a whole show on that.
No, but here's the thing is that the real thing here is that if you really want to do something, you can do it. You don't let your age stop you. If you want to go play football at 38 with 18-year-olds, go do it. Just, you're the only thing standing between you and doing it. Go at least try it. If you fail, at least you failed trying.
Yeah,
Nick, that's awesome, Nick.
I started the first game. I was on the travel team, and I started against, as I was 38 years old and a starting football player at the long snapping position. So that's how I got tied in.
Wow.
That's the story of how I kind of got tied in with Chris. And then I did a show with him. And then a year later, he started on his path with the Rubio method. And I did his first show with him. And then about 4 months ago, I called and said, "Hey man, I'd like to start a podcast. Do you know how I can get this thing rolling?" And so he kind of got me started in that as well.
That is awesome.
Wow.
Nice job,
Nice.
Rubio.
Listen,
Yep.
Nick, if you have
All right.
if you have time when we go off air, I have a question or two if you can hang out for a minute.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. And then just to put a bow on this little package, I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Jim, Nick, Alex, I thought it was great. I think, the key takeaway for me is just, let's have these conversations. Let's have the hard conversations. Let's be able to say suicide. Let's talk about not being okay is okay. I'd rather people say the people that are screaming that I'm not okay, I'm not as worried about as the ones who sit there in silence that I know aren't okay. So
Yeah.
make sure you check on those people, ask the tough questions, have the tough conversations. And with that, we will see you all next week for another great episode. Thank you, Nick, Jim, Alex. It was another great show. Appreciate you guys.
Peace out.
Thank you.